Hi, my name is Rebecca Mara, and I am an intuitive coach and energy healer, and I'm the owner of Samadhi Mind and Body. And I'd like to talk to you today about when I learned to converse with trees in shamanic journeys and what they've taught me. Um, as of right now, other than just being present in my own life, trees have been my greatest spiritual teacher. And it's been incredible. When I discovered the spirit of trees, I just discovered the spirit of Gaia, or Gaia Sophia, or of the earth. It's the god of the earth, the spirit of the earth, which I never believed was actually a spirit or really alive until she started talking to me. Um, yeah, I used to be judgmental about that. So what I experienced was the first time I live on a mountain, and I was standing in the back by a tree. Um, and I just started breathing with it. I just started presencing with the tree, noticing it, and letting my energy field merge with it. I was practicing grounding or learning how to ground, because being a spiritual type, we can lose our grounding and our connection to the material earth that keeps us safe and supported and protected. And I was trying to ground and connect to the earth so that I could tether my spirit more to my body instead of just in my mind or in spiritual space flying around. And what I experienced was my intention was to shed the electric thoughts and magnetic feelings and to let them go out and down through my grounding cord. Um, and what happened instead was I just ended up sitting there and letting the earth take any veils that I had that would keep me from seeing the divine or from seeing spirit. I let the earth take any weight in my body anywhere, any tension anywhere. It just took that weight. I let it take my thoughts. I let it take anything that wasn't of my complete essence, of my complete presence. And once those veils and the control grids and the electric thoughts and magnetic weight of feelings stuck in the body, once that was cleared, what was left was that perfect presence. So my whole being felt full. It felt so full. It felt like nothing was missing. There is no right or wrong, certainly no good or bad. It's just consciousness unraveling and discovering itself. And when we are aware, we can bring our consciousness to the moment to let it continue to evolve and to move and to be dynamic. It's when our attention fixates on something or becomes stuck that we lose track, that we start to lose our way, and that the energy gets bound and then is no longer dynamic and has no more ability to shapeshift or this silky evolution of unfolding and unraveling. Instead, we create blocks and control and bondage, and then that energy gets tied up. So that energy could normally be used for our awareness, for our fullness, for experiencing life more deeply. And when we get present and we let that bound energy or that control energy unwind, then we have all this presence available. We have more of ourselves available because we're not controlling life, or we're not stopping anything from happening. No emotion, we're not stopping any pain. We're leaning completely into it and saying yes. We're leaning completely into the moment and saying, yes, take me, I surrender. And in that, not much has to be done because not much is missing or imperfect. Life just keeps unraveling and conscious keeps unraveling. We get smarter and our hearts grow bigger and we become more of who we always wanted to be. So this feeling, this first time that I spoke to a tree, was so deeply peaceful, and I felt so clear and so awake that I was scared that I would be unlike other people, this happened to only be a moment of Satori, where it's like a fleeting moment of enlightenment. But I did learn to continue to cultivate that awareness and that state of presence and being, where I wasn't identified with my thoughts, or I wasn't identified with my feelings. I was consciousness witnessing the experience of all of these. Like, my hand was contacting whatever I was experiencing. I was with it, but I wasn't merged with it. I wasn't my thought or my or the way that I felt. I was pure being, the I am consciousness. And yeah, so what happened with that was this like deep, deep peace. It was like I felt God in the earth, and God was there, right there in that spirit of the earth, that she was showing me who I am. And after that, my Kundalini was going at this like soft boil for a week, and I was just in bliss, and I felt such deep peace and contentment and relaxation, knowing that nothing is wrong and nothing is missing, and that we can't die, that we're just consciousness continually unraveling. So what I saw was it was an airplane with my friends, and they were goofing around, and I was seeing visions of Christ's energy and the tree of life of this like perfect dance and perfect plan that includes everything. It was really intense visions. I was like blissing out and trying to stay in connection with them. So that was my first experience with a tree. And my second time talking to a tree was in a shamanic journey with drumming. And I sat in front of the tree, and it was funny. I didn't think anything was going to happen, but it did right away. And I asked the tree, what has created this heaviness in my relationship to this one thing? Like, why do I feel so much heaviness whenever I think about this? And it right away turned to me and said, because you bound energy. When you created a story about how things were, you missed out on the dynamic nature of everything else that was happening at that time. So as soon as you created that story, you labeled and bound energy that at that point was undefined, and once it was bound, it was attached, it was stuck. You became attached to the reality or the feeling of the reality of that perception and locked it in. And you continued to suffer because that reality was one tiny, tiny piece of what was happening. Meanwhile, millions, infinite amounts of other dynamics were at play. And it showed me its life, and it said, watch me. And it showed me it from the time of a seed. And other seeds got planted and grew trees, and others didn't. The winds were blowing the seeds around. Some of the seeds landed in the soil. Some got enough water. Some got enough sunlight. Some grew a little. Some grew and got burnt down. There's this whole dance of a tree becoming a tree, the way that the wind's hitting things, the way the sunlight is, how much nourishment it's getting. All of these things are happening in this continual dance of dying, birth, the in-between stages, and nothing was missing. Nothing was right or wrong. Nothing was better or worse. It was the magic of life, the breath of life, the breath of God moving all of these pieces continuously, never ending, never stopping. And when we stop and we bind energy and we become unconscious, we stop being aware of what we are doing, or we stop being aware that we have a choice in our perception or in our minds, we have a choice with how we can experience something. We have an awareness where we're not identified with our thoughts or with our feelings. We are experiencing them as a spirit. It's like being a ghost. like a really great spirit or a great ghost, and feeling the presence, just the isness of that outside of the personality, outside of the thoughts, because the thoughts, the personality, and the feelings are things that we are identified with. However, they are experiences they have, they are not who we are. And when we become the I am, the being witnessing these experiences, that's when change starts to happen. That's when we have enough space and awareness between ourselves and what seems to be happening outside of us. We have an ability to choose in that moment. Okay, so that in that journey, that tree showed me how many things were moving, how many things were at play, how much dynamism there was happening that I was missing, and I was suffering because of the story that I created and the story that I chose to believe very stubbornly, as our egos often do. So the third time that I spoke to a tree was I was hosting a shamanic event in this beautiful yurt way out in this property with a swimming hole. It was gorgeous. And I was really excited to do the exercise that the shaman had us do of going outside and talking to trees. And I went out there and I picked a tree, and I was feeling all confident. I was like, okay, I'm the healer here, and everybody else is going to have like an okay experience, and I'm probably going to have a great one, and I can't wait to go back and like tell them what experience I have, teach them or whatever. And then I sat down and started waiting for the tree to talk, and it turned away from me, and I was like, what? That's weird. I've never experienced that before. And I tried talking to it again, and it turned away from me. It was distrustful of humans. And so I sat and sat and I didn't think. I just was sitting with it for a moment, and then it occurred to me, oh, I'm being just like an American. I'm trying to take an experience from this tree, and that's why it won't talk to me. So when I realized that I was trying to take an experience from this tree, I saw how we tried to take an experience from everything. It's different than being in relationship to your food, like actually knowing where it came from and knowing that it has a life and that it went through this whole process. Or being in relationship with animals. Like, animals aren't it. They have spirits, just like plants have spirits. It's just that we've forgotten, we don't remember because we've gotten so far away from nature. We try to take experiences from whatever we consume. We try to take experiences from other people and what we think that they should give us. And we try to take experience from God. We say to God, okay, I need this. Can you give this to me? And the thing is that there's no loving relationship. Where is the relationship there when we're trying to take something? We can't listen if we're busy thinking about, just acting from a place of what we can take. And what I've learned is that the reason why tree spirits talk to me is because I have reverence for them, because I know that they're alive, because I appreciate them. It's a loving relationship that I have with them, a caring, present, compassionate, quiet relationship that's so beautiful. And that's why trees talk to me. It's the same thing with God or with an angel or your pet or your partner. When you have reverence for things, the consciousness of it comes alive. You can listen to what's actually happening, and then you're in a true relationship where you're both growing and evolving and changing together. So when I looked at this tree again and I became in relationship with it, and I stopped trying to take something from it, and I just listened to it, I just paid attention to it, it started telling me this whole story about how my body is not mine, that it was there for me to give life. And at first this really triggered my ego, because I was thinking like, okay, so I'm not a feminist. I wouldn't call myself that, but I certainly don't feel like my body belongs to anybody, and I don't feel like it's my job to just give. That seems like old paradigm, right? It seemed really inappropriate for this tree to suggest something so old school. It was sort of like the way that a tribal woman's body would belong to the tribe, or a way that her body would be there for, the happiness of the tribe, where she gives birth, she gives sex, she gives cooking or caretaking. And that actually made sense. It was honorable. It wasn't, if that's the true energy of it, that is harmonious living for someone who's tribal, for people that are in that kind of culture. So it took me a second to reinterpret this, because it was definitely pointing to my womb space and saying, your body is here for you to give life. Felt really important, because I realized how in American culture we've become so guarded. We've become so protective of ourselves, of our individualism, of this is mine, this is yours, don't try to touch me, this is my car, this is my house. And there's like this individualism where we're not one. We're not, and I don't mean this without discretion. So there's this way that we're not one when we are coming from that place of having to protect our energy so much. Like, how can we have free access to lots of energy if we're protecting that much? So to free that energy up and to say, oh, my body is for me to give life. And how does one give life? One gives life by the way that God does when he touched man, when he breathed the breath of life into mankind, when he breathed the breath of life into trees, into animals. There's this loving relationship, like this golden touch. And that's the kind of breath and appreciation we can bring to activate parts of our body, to get in proper relationship with our minds, instead of objectifying our bodies and minds, or our lives, or our loved ones. This takes us out of the objectifying tribal, you are other, I must conquer or dominate, and it takes us into back into unity. It takes us into, oh, how am I like you? What aspect of you, Spirit, is in me? In every moment, there's this life that begins to happen when we have that kind of awareness and reverence for every part of it. The pain and the pleasure, being that I am being able to experience both pain and pleasure without preference. It's a leaning in and saying yes, yes, to whatever the experience is. This is proper relationship. And the last time I talked to a tree, it was similar again. I saw this really bright field around it while I was hiking, and I was with a friend that was psychic too, and I said, oh my God, look how bright that is. And he was like, yeah. We went up to this tree, or I put my hand on the tree to start merging my energy field with it. It's sort of like a bonding, it's like I put my hand on it, I go to bond, I pick up on its energy, and its energy teaches me. But this tree said, don't touch me like that. And I was like, what? And it said, when you touch me with love. And again, this brought me to the place where most of what we contact with our awareness, whether it's with our hands, with our minds, with our thoughts, with our feelings, most of what we contact is sort of objectified. It's like it's not precious. It's like every moment and everything in this earth isn't here to teach us somehow. Every part of ourselves is every little every little difference in our consciousness is there to teach us. It's there for us. And even that pain is just part of the squeezing of life. You get squeezed and then you open. You get squeezed and then you open. And usually we resist the squeezing. We don't trust it. We're not in proper actual relationship with it. We're not actually intimate with what's going on. And when we become loving toward, or a yes to, I'm leaning into, I'm willing to feel what's happening right now, we become alive. We become so alive because we're not blocking any experience, we're not resisting anything, and life becomes magic. Everything that we touch becomes magic. Everything that looked like a block becomes an opening because we're not binding energy and we're not attaching to our mind or our thoughts. We're a sentient being, observing them and kind of playing with them and dancing with them. So, in a nutshell, trees teach me the art of presence and awareness and how full and rich and whole that place is for all of us. They teach me relationship because I can't be separate when I'm standing by a tree or in nature. There's a way that I start to blend with it. And I'm not separate from other people. I feel unity through my relationship because I'm not blocking I am this and you are that with my ego. Instead, whatever experience they offer me becomes alive within me. And I use all of that as experience to alchemize, learning how to meet, learning how to say yes to all that is in myself and others. The feeling feels like deeply peaceful, like I am a fire, a living fire, an aliveness that burns, a strength, and it feels like waking up. It feels like spirit waking up in a body, and me being able to see myself for the first time. And it feels incredible. So, if anyone out there is interested in learning how to talk to trees or connect to trees, you could start with a shamanic journey like drumming or dancing or something like that. But what you really want is a total presence, a real listening to what's there. Not from a mind looking. It's from a relaxed mind. It's from a listening, not looking. And in that listening, you'll start to hear information and notice things, and stop the superego where it starts going, was that right? What is that? Is that me? Did I make that up? Just listen. It doesn't matter. None of those questions have a good answer. So just listen to whatever you hear with whatever. Like, start getting in relationship with those trees. And what I like to imagine is that when you stand in front of it, the tree is really dense. It's really thick, but it's made out of light, and its field and spirit are so open. So just imagine you can start kind of breathing with the tree, like you're being with the tree, and start listening to the messages that its spirit teaches you. I think you'll really enjoy it. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that this was helpful for you, and I'd like to send you all hugs. Take care.